How y'all doing today? So today we're going to make one of my favorite shakes, and it's a green smoothie. Now, like last week and the week before, we're trying to make food as medicine and to reverse acute and chronic conditions naturally. So in our practice, this is one of the reasons why we're so successful, is we eat nutrient-dense food to help the body actually function. Now, this is a very simple thing that takes maybe 5 minutes at the most to make. It's a great thing to make every morning or as a snack at the office. So we'll start with this. I'm actually using a magic bullet. It's a very simple device, and your cup, you have your blade, you put your stuff in, you grind it up, and then you drink out of the cup. Now this is, there's also NutriBlend, and there's Oster is a really good one where you can actually use canning jars, so that way you don't get any of the toxicity from the plastic. Now there's a lot of variations to what we can do here, but this is going to be what I drink pretty much every morning. So we want to do the greens at the end, but the reason we call it green smoothie is its main thing is greens, but we're going to add lots of fruits, so it's not going to taste like greens, it's going to taste like a fruit shake. So we'll start with flaxseed. Now flaxseed you can buy pre-ground or you can buy not, and today we're just using the seeds because this actually blends it up really well. You can't get any of the omega-3 benefits from this unless it is actually pulverized. So you have to actually break that shell, unlike chia, which we don't have to actually grind it up. So when you buy flax, buy it whole, grind it up, put it in the glass jar in the freezer, and then just dish it out as you need it. Wonderful for salads and soups. So we're going to put about a couple, maybe a tablespoon. And then we also have chia seed. Now both these are very rich in omega-3. So you're talking about reversing heart disease, depression, and even muscle aches. So we have chia, we have flax, and again about a tablespoon. And then we have hemp seed, and this is a new one that I started adding. And hemp seed is very nutrient dense. Lots of omega-3s in here. So when I used to teach, I'd tell, or even with patients, you got to stay away from Tylenol because it accounts for 52% of all liver failures in the U.S. So then in Tylenol, you pretty much are guaranteed a GI bleed within 2 weeks of taking it. So patients will always ask, well, what do you take for pain? Well, the biggest thing is to eat so you're not in pain all the time. And these are the things that you want, those omega-3. So when you eat fish, like fatty fish, like tuna, salmon, sardines, and you eat your chia, your flaxseed, your hemp seed, you have less inflammation, less chronic pain. Now I'm using pecans, but I like to add nuts. Again, it's always fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and berries, and greens. So you can change this around, but pecans are really good, or as my wife says, pecans. And then we also have pumpkin seeds. Now pumpkin seeds, these are green. These are wonderful. I'll probably put a little bit extra in there. These are wonderful to rebuild your hormones. Many of us are exhausted all the time. And pumpkin seeds like pumpkin is going to help rebuild our progesterone, which gets exhausted in us, and then we get estrogen dominance. For men, that's increased prostate size, man boobs. For women, that's endometriosis, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, menstrual cycle problems. So you can actually eat your way out of those with just things like pumpkin seeds, pumpkin, sweet potatoes. Now, cooked sweet potato would be good in this too. And a lot of times I'll put carrots, and those are good for progesterone. Now, blueberries are what's going to make this really taste great. Now, I use frozen blueberries. They're organic, and these are a little bit thawed out, but they'll add the coldness to it too. A banana is going to make it creamy. We'll shove that in there. Now, you can see this banana's a little oxidized. Much of the food that you consume you don't really want to oxidize, but bananas are actually better at fighting cancer, and they're even more creamier if they're a little bit aged. And then before we put in our greens, we're going to fill in our liquid. You can always use more or less of this. Again, it's going to be based on how thick that you want it. I use orange juice, and again, when you start out doing this, just keep it as simple as possible. Orange juice is just going to make it taste good no matter what you do wrong with it. You can also just use water or cut up an orange. If you use organic, you can throw the peel in there. Wonderful. So the last thing that we have is our greens. Now, This is kale, and kale is the most nutrient-dense lettuce there really is. You can use spinach, which is wonderful. You can also use Swiss chard, which is great. Don't use head lettuce. You know, they say there's no nutrition there. There is. It's just not that good. The reason we want to use greens, and we're going to pack this full, and hopefully this will blend right. The reason we use greens is because the green in it is very much like your blood. So your blood has red blood cells, and in the middle of those red blood cells, there's like 4 little porphyrins, and there's iron in there, and so your blood is red because of the iron. With plants, the green comes from the same exact molecule, but instead of iron, it has magnesium. So for patients that have, say, constipation, magnesium is a wonderful thing to reverse that super fast. And then you also have people with brain fog, memory loss. And magnesium is critical for that. And most of us just don't eat enough green things, and so we end up suffering the consequences of a bad diet. So instead of eating Twinkies and praying for memory, we have to actually eat food that benefits us. So greens are going to provide tons of magnesium. It's going to relax our muscles. Patients love it to go to sleep with. So if you have problems going to sleep, staying asleep, excellent for that. So I think this is pretty good. And we're going to blend it up. And this might take a little bit. But as that stuff starts falling down in there, then it really gets exciting. So, and I like the bullet because it's very quick. Now, you can see in here, this is, I like a little bit chunky. I like texture to it. Now, it's really green, kind of a dark green. Sometimes it can look really kind of gross and sludgy, but the way you fix it, you can't go wrong with these. The way you fix it is just put in more berries and you'll make it purple. We had a patient dinner once and I made one that looked just like this. It was dark green and nobody was drinking it. So I went over and I put a bunch of more blueberries in there, blended it up. It became this beautiful shade of purple, and then all of a sudden it was gone. So, you know, if you're feeding this to your friends, make it pretty. If you're feeding it for you and you want the most nutrient dense, you know, just don't worry how ugly this stuff looks. It is wonderful. And it looks green, but it tastes like fruit. So it's excellent. And again, we're talking about reversing all those chronic things you have and getting a lot of nutrition in a very easy way. We spent 8 minutes doing all this, but at home, it takes me like 5 minutes to get this done. All right, we'll be back after this, and we'll put these up in cups and then taste them and see what we think. Answer any questions that we have. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to your hour. Dr. Patrick Garrett is still with us, and we're going to get to sample the green smoothie, right?
That's right.
So
now, does it look pretty?
It does. Well, you know, it's not bad. It looks like, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like a shamrock shake that you would get from McDonald's with little bits of chocolate chip in it.
There you go. See? You see the good in everything. Yeah, sometimes the look will throw people off. You know, I post these on Facebook all the time. You know, what am I drinking? And I get some weird comments, but I'm like, just trust me, it's good. It's really good.
So, do I get to try it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it has chia seed. Now, if you put chia seed in here and you let it sit for very long, it's going to get thicker. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, you know.
You can almost eat this with a spoon.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, some people, instead of putting bananas, will put chia seed in, and that'll thicken that up. But if you leave it too long.
Actually, it tastes pretty good.
Yeah, well, good.
Yeah,
good.
it does.
It's super healthy.
But it's chewy.
Yes. Yeah, and I like that. You know, the nurse in our office, she doesn't like to put the seeds and the nuts in there. Mm-hmm. But I like the texture. I'll even put carrots in there. And I'm actually kind of happy if they don't puree down perfectly, because it's kind of like surprise packages to me. I don't know.
So what other kinds of things can, I mean, you mix this with a little orange juice. If you wanted it a little a little more liquidy,
Yeah.
what would you, I mean, if you didn't want to use orange juice, what else could you use?
Well, you know, a lot of people use just water because, again, orange juice is very high glycemic. And so with weight being a big issue in America and in the immune problems, we don't want to decrease the immune system by eating a lot of things that are high glycemic. So you can do just water or actually just take a whole orange and chop it up and throw it in there and just add more water to get the consistency you want. If you want it more liquidy, which a lot of people like, you just put less of the nuts and seeds in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
that, and especially if you don't put the banana in there, it'll be really runny, which a lot of people like.
So you just really kind of have to experiment with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And play with it and adjust it according to your own taste.
And the only thing I don't like to put in there, and I don't encourage, is dairy. A lot of people use yogurt, and kind of like we talked about last week, we made kombucha, which is fermented green tea. And there was actually a good study right after we did that segment about all the bacteria that lives in your belly button. And there's whole families of bacteria that they didn't even know exist. And you know, so bacteria is really good for us. And so people go to yogurt. But yogurt only has one bacteria. You know, it has lactobacillus in it.
Okay.
And that's one out of the 750 that you need. And where kombucha is going to have like 15, 16, and you know, all your environment and surface is going to have lots of others. So they'll usually want to drink yogurt because of that one good bacteria, but the reality is you also get all the dairy. And unfortunately, dairy has a lot of estrogen in it. Cows produce actually more estrogens than humans do, and the type of estrogens that a cow produces is to grow a little cow into a really big giant cow very quickly, and most people don't want to grow into a big giant cow very quickly.
Well, I did, so no, I'm not crazy about that idea. Well, and that probably explains why we have an obesity problem, not just with our children, but a lot of the adults have that problem as well.
That's right. So when we make shakes and when we talk about all the other food as medicine, we really want to focus on low glycemic, nutrient-dense food. What is going to slowly convert to sugar and then provide the most nutrition for us? And a lot of people think that fruit is actually unhealthy for us or will contribute to obesity and diabetes, and that's not true. Only about 20% of the sugar that's in fruit will actually convert across. Now, the fructose that's in there is actually different than the fructose you would buy as an additive in other products, like high fructose corn syrup. And that does not break down very well and ends up with fatty liver in adults and children.
Well, the idea of having sugar that kind of turns to sugar slowly is to avoid that sugar rush that you get and that crash at
That's
the
right.
end.
Yeah, there's this wonderful response that can actually increase infertility in patients, let alone decrease their immune system. And that's if you eat things that convert to sugar very quickly, you overproduce insulin, which then you have a sudden drop of blood sugar, and then you end up with reactive hypoglycemia, which then people get the shakes, and then they want to eat something to get them back up to where they were. But your body's going to use epinephrine and norepinephrine to actually increase your blood sugar without more sugar from your diet. And all that epinephrine is going to cause anxiety and hypertension, and all the cortisol is going to decrease your immune system and decrease gonadotropins, which then end up with fertility problems. So most people don't think when they drink their soda, their shake, or their chips, you know, that they're causing infertility and depression. But
Well, it brought up a question that I have is some diet pills have a tendency to make people anxious.
that's right.
Is that why? Because they mess with their blood sugar?
Well, mainly because they're using something to jack up the metabolism artificially. And so you get all jittery and anxious, kind of like you're having fight or flight, but there's no fight or there's no flight.
Yeah.
So people then end up causing lots of problems.
Sure. Well, thanks for joining us today. Can you give us a sneak peek at what you're going to do next Monday?
Well, next Monday we're going to make a really healthy dish, and it's going to be a surprise. So.
Oh, okay. So we'll be back. So stay tuned, and we'll be reading from the Wichita Eagle Opinion Line.